Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Catfish Weekly. This is Catfish Weekly 35. Tonight we're going to be talking tournament strategies, and we have a special guest of Casey Tutorow and John LeMaster, both Indiana boys, fishing here in my home state. Probably one of the top teams, definitely in the state of Indiana for tournament catfish angling. So, definitely a treat to have them on. Hopefully we get a little bit of information out of them tonight and maybe help somebody else's game a little bit. But we also have with us Chuck Davidson, which just dropped out, but we'll get him back in here. Lyle Stokes, myself, Chris Wallace, aka Fudd. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to Lyle, and I'll try to get Chuck back on here so you can start us off there, Lyle.
All right, bud. Hey, guys, glad to have you on the show tonight. Um, I just wanted to ask you a few things. When you guys are pre-fishing to get ready for a big tournament or monthly tournaments or whatever, do you look at everything the same way, whether it's a big tournament or just a monthly tournament in your local club or whatever?
Uh, yeah, we definitely look at it the same way. Sometimes I guess the preparation might be a little different. Some of the bigger tournaments we might take an extra day or two off of work to get down there, especially if it's a good distance away. We live in Indianapolis, so for us to even get to the Ohio River, it's a 2-3 hour drive to get down there. And but we look at it the same way. We always want to make sure we have the fresh bait we can. We put a lot of our time into bait more than anything before the tournament, I would say.
When you're pre-fishing, getting ready to go on a Thursday or Friday before a tournament, and you're out on the river looking around, are you looking for fish, or are you looking for structure, or are you looking for something else?
Uh, a lot of times we'll truly we'll go to a different spot on the river. If we know we're going to fish 50 miles upstream, we'll go down and we'll just kind of check out some of the fishing around there, and we'll do a lot of our bait fishing, and then we might make a couple or make a couple anchors in some bins and just try and figure out where the fish are at, whether they're going to be in the deeper water or on the ledges or in the mussel beds, those kinds of things.
Okay, good deal. So you spend a lot of time with bait preparation. Do you use mainly skipjack herring and shad, or do you use moon eye and stuff? And does it make a difference on what time of the year, what kind of bait you're using?
Typically, we depending on the type of season, like earlier in the spring, we kind of change up our bait situation. Typically shad. In the fall we really like to fish with skipjack, and in the summertime we kind of keep it with the moon eye if we can get them. It can be a very difficult fish to catch.
Yeah, around here it's the same way. Certain times of year you can find one thing and not the other. But do you try to keep it live, or keep it froze or on ice, or just how you go about keeping your bait fresh?
Yeah, we typically always, keep them really iced down. That's a big thing. Casey's always on me, like, go get another bag of ice. It's
You can't
definitely.
no water in the cooler. You can't. You got to keep them out of the water, and it depends what you have too. Like the shad. If I'm going to fish with shad, I'm catching it the day before. I'm catching it the night before. If I'm going fishing in the morning, I'm catching it at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I'm trying to keep it as fresh as I can, and then the skipjack, we're going to vacuum seal those. And then the moon eye, we can keep fresh on ice. We try and do that. And that's our typical bait in the spring or in the fall, in the summer. So that's what we're going after now. But skipjack before the spawn, and then shad the rest of the year.
Cool. This year at Monsters, they're having a deal where you've got you're allowed one fish over 35, if I understand this right, per person, and then that's for blues, and then you're allowed one over 35 flathead, and then whatever the deal is on the channel cat. And I know we're supposed to have Aaron Wheatley on next week, kind of clarify some of that stuff, but. Are you guys going to be going for live bait for the flatheads, or are you going to rely on your cut bait to go after flatheads too?
I'll probably just I probably won't have any live bait. I'll still just I'm gonna fish for the blues. I think I can catch, if I can go out and catch two blues that are 50 pounder or 40 pounder that are over the 35-inch rule, I think it'd be hard to beat, because the Ohio River it's a tough fishery to go out and try and pull your two blues over 35 and then catch a flathead that's over 35, or a flathead kicker to boot it. That's to do, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I just I know there's flatheads down there, but I don't see very many people talking about it or posting about them or anything like that. So I'm kind of we're going to spend a few days down there looking around before the tournament ourselves, just simply because we're not familiar with flathead and down there. Now, if we was up in this area, it'd be a different situation, but down there, the flathead deal would be new. Your equipment that you're using, can you tell us about what you're using for electronics and stuff?
Okay, I have the 1198, the down imaging, side imaging combo. That's really helping me. I got the Minn Kota, the 50 pound, I think it's a 50 or 60 pound thrust, tiller, trolling motor. We're using our monster rod holders, and we got an assortment of rods. We've had all kinds of different rods, from Jim Moyer rods to E-Cats to Tangling Catfish rods. We got most of all that. A lot of Abu Garcia and Ambassador reels, a couple pin reels, stuff like that. Give most of my credit to the 1198. That's helped us a lot.
Yeah, we was talking before the show about you was telling us that's probably your number one thing that you believe that's helped you guys out. That's amazing. A lot of guys rely on gut feelings on finding fish or structure or whatever, and I'm with you on that. I wouldn't trade my bird for anything. They just what they do and helping us in tournaments just absolutely blows me away every time I turn it on. So that's great. We also talked a little bit about your live well, and you was telling us that it's a pretty good sized live well before the show started. Do you have aeration in that, or oxygen, or anything to keep your fish alive?
Yeah, I'm running two bubble boxes on they're pumping into these, I don't know, they're 6 to 7 inch air stones. I'm putting a lot of oxygen in there, and I'm circulating water the whole time. And then the summer months, I'm even hooking up another bubble box up to a pump, external battery, and they're all 12 volt pumps. So they're pumping a lot of air in there. I just constantly change the water. That's the number one thing. If I can just keep that water running through there and changing, I hardly ever seem to have a problem keeping fish alive. The only
Yeah,
time we really had too much of a problem with keeping fish alive and it was actually this year, is we lost two fish, one in two tournaments, and it was during the spawn, and the fish that we caught, they were really tore up, and I'm not sure if they were just so fatigued, or they were just really tore up and bloody, and they were bad fish. So I don't know if, really, is that we put them in the live well, they went belly up. So I don't know if the stress from the spawn killed them, but we've never really had a problem if we can just keep the fresh water going.
right, right. That's something that Brent Riddle had told me about when we built our last live well, was keeping different water moving in and out was more important. He believed that it was more important than circulating water, and of course we run oxygen and aeration pumps like you're talking on stones and things, but we've got ours set up on timers where it runs water out and new water in all the time, and I'm in agreement with that. I think that is more important than just having it moving, because it doesn't get stale, or the oxygen never gets depleted completely out of it.
Yep.
Okay, Chuck, you got anything for these guys?
Nope, we ain't got no audio, or we got no sound from you, Chuck.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
During the hot summer months, down here in Alabama, the water temps get up 88, 90 degrees. Y'all probably don't have quite the problem up there, but during the summer months, during the day tournaments, do y'all bring any, 2-liter Coke bottles that's been frozen into ice or anything like that to help control the water temperature, or do y'all just recirculate out of the lake and try to keep the temps down?
We just always, keep the fresh water flowing on them. I don't think we've ever yet used any ice or any bottles or anything like that.
And yeah, what's y'all's success rate on keeping fish alive? I know a lot of times you can't help gut hooks and stuff like that. Are y'all's success rate are y'all up around 100% now? And do y'all think y'all have improved a lot since y'all first started tournament fishing?
I've been fishing with Casey for about 5 or 6 years now, and that entire time we've only lost 3 fish.
And like I said, like I was saying, 2 of them were this year during the spawn. And I wouldn't be surprised if the fish had a heart attack when it come over the side of the boat or something, because I mean I put it in the live well and it died, and that doesn't happen. And then we lost one other tournament fish one time in a tournament, a Cabela's tournament, because the fish was actually in the live well and he had knocked the drain plug out and the water had ran out and I didn't realize it, and he had been in there without water for about 30-45 minutes. But other than that, we really don't struggle at all to keep fish alive.
Y'all hadn't had any problem in rough water beating the fish up, hitting big swells, anything like that? Y'all have never had any problems like that?
No, we've never really had an issue. Sometimes the drain plug comes out, but we're on top of it, checking on them, constantly. And we always try to keep them alive and keep fresh water on them. So.
Awesome, good job.
Ron Streeter in chat said to turn a light on so we could see you.
I got the light
on. But
all right, so
go ahead.
So about the only trouble y'all have had was the drain plug. That's about it. So since that's happened, y'all are bound and determined not to let it happen again, huh? It's just constantly on your mind now.
Oh yeah, when I get those fish in the boat, they're like my babies, man. I'm taking care of them. I'm always checking on them. And it's not uncommon for us to keep several fish in the live well. We'll keep. Sometimes we're catching them real fast, and I don't really call them out. I'll keep 8 or 9 or 10 fish in there sometimes until I get ready. I need to call them out until I know that I know where the limit's at, and then I'll start to call them out. But that takes time when you're fishing in the tournament, and if the bite's on, it might only be on for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah,
that's right. What you got for him, Chris?
Oh, well, we have another question. Scott in chat is asking you to explain your trolling motor situation. Why do you only use the handheld, the tiller style trolling motor?
It gives you better control of the boat and the mobility of us. It allows, like Casey was saying earlier, when up near the big come back, he can control the boat to where there's no delay in the trolling motor.
And the iPilot just seems to have a delay to it, and it just doesn't seem like they can hold as well. Now, like I said, it's a lot of work because you're doing all the trolling motoring by hand, and I can go from 0 speed to 100 speed instantly, and that helps. I wish I had an iPilot at times, and that's more of my boat's not equipped for it, and it's just something I haven't come to acquire yet.
I've actually seen you guys out on the water, and it almost seems to me that if, say, you're controlling the trolling motor, Johnny is pretty much the fisherman. He's grabbing the poles. I mean, he might hand you one off real quick or something, but it's kind of hard for you to handle a pole and the trolling motor at the same time, isn't it?
Oh yeah. When we're fishing, if I break something off, he's always tying my lines up for me and handing me my rods back. And I'm always fishing 2 or 3 rods out the front of the boat, and he's always fishing 2 or 3 out the back. And then I'm running the trolling motor. I can keep my rods going while I'm running the trolling motor, but once I hook up on a fish, it's his job to run the trolling motor and get the fish in the net at the same time.
Okay.
Like we were talking about earlier, the current on the Ohio River, it's only running a mile or under right now, so it's a lot of times it's running 0.3 or 0.4 mile an hour, so it's not that big of a deal. If we might get a little bit off of course, but once we get the fish in the net, we can just get right back on course.
We have another question from chat too, from Seth McAllister. He wants to know if you guys spend most of your time anchored or controlled drifting.
Yeah, I would say 90% of our fishing is drifting unless there is a lot of current, or sometimes in the early spring, we tend to anchor a lot.
When the water's a little cooler,
Yeah.
but it's not quite as heavy.
I like to anchor at the dam. I'm not afraid to anchor at the dam, but I'd rather drift if I'm anywhere away from the dam.
Okay. Yeah. Who basically taught you guys both how to catfish? I mean, who was your personal trainers there? Taught you
That
everything you know.
my dad, I don't know, I can't remember. I was maybe 10 or 11 years old, and I was pretty good at baseball. And it was either play on the all-star baseball team or go and fish tournaments with them. And he told me I had the choice, and I told him I want to go fish tournaments with them because I grew up bluegill fishing and crappie fishing and just going to the strip pits all the time. And when I was about 8 or 9 years old, my dad opened a bait and tackle store, and he had that for I don't know 12 or 13 years, and that just kept me into fishing all the time. And then we fished tournaments, and Johnny fished with his dad, and that's how we met. And we just kept fishing. And one day, I was 16 or 17 years old. My dad decided he couldn't fish the tournaments anymore, and he let me start using all his truck and his boat until I could get into my own and do those things. And he taught me everything I know, and then I took it from myself and taught myself a tremendous amount. When I quit fishing with my dad, we really didn't know how to fish on the Ohio River very well, or anything like that. He taught me a lot of reservoir fishing and just the general basics and how to do everything right. And I've taken the Ohio River. I've learned that all. That's all self-taught for the most part. I've been and got beat numerous times by a lot of people, and I just always listened and what people had to say and try new things until I figured out what worked for me.
Yeah. What about yourself, Johnny?
It's the same for me. Ever since I can remember, I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and my dad had me out in the creeks wading and bass fishing, and then small lakes and ponds, catfishing until he finally got a boat, and then from there it just kind of took off. I've been fishing the ICA since I was 13 years old. It's just one of those things that stuck with me, and like Casey said, I would almost rather go fishing any day of the week than play a sport that I was even great at. Like I played football and basketball and lacrosse all through high school, so it just stuck with me, and it's more exciting to me than anything I've ever done.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely have seen that you got, I mean, if I go back and you look into ICA's past records, they got records for quite a ways back, and I've seen some pictures of both of you guys when you were pretty young. So I know you've been doing it for a while, and you've had you have family members also that are still in it, or some of them are. I've not seen Casey's dad in any tournaments that I know of. So I don't. Is your dad just done fishing them, or?
He can't commit to the schedule anymore. Me and him go and we go for some fun sometimes. We take a trip down Wheeler every winter for a week and those kinds of things. But he works so much in the summertime and when the tournaments are going on, he can't commit to it.
Yeah. We got another question for you. It says from I believe it's my buddy Alan. He asked if you only use big fish or big baits for big fish.
Yeah, that really for me last week, at Rising Sun, we were marking a lot of fish, but we weren't getting the bites, and Casey said, "Man, I'm gonna throw on a small bait," and it wasn't even 10 minutes later that he threw on the smallest bait that we put on all day that he caught a 31-pound blue. So it kind of just depends on the situation, the bite. When it's on, we will throw big baits or big fish out, but when it's kind of slower. I would not be afraid to throw on a small piece of bait and, know that I could catch fish on it.
What's your definition of small? Was it like a 1 by 1 inch square of shad, or I mean, what was small to you?
I normally fish with something, I don't know. I'll take a 10 or 12 inch, moon eye or skipjack, and I'll cut it into 2 or 3 sections, so I don't know. I'm fishing with 3 and 4 inch, 5 inch sections. I'm not afraid to put the whole fish on there. We'll fish with 10 and 12 inch baits sometimes. We'll fish with the whole fish. But a lot of times I'm cutting a skipjack into 3 pieces, or I'm cutting, a shad into 2, or cutting it whole. But the piece I had him hand me last weekend, it was just probably a 1 inch by 1 inch piece of the tail, and we couldn't catch anything, and it was just real high pressure, and it was just a bad day of fishing. You know, it was a big cold front blew in, bluebird, and we put that little on there, and bam, we caught that 31 pounder. It saved the day for us.
Hey, Chris.
Yep.
I got a question on Facebook. Lee Reed asked me a question to ask Casey and John if what's their preferred way to cut their baits up.
I think they use spoons.
Spoons? Okay.
Sorry.
Well, since I the bait, you know, I cut it. I try to make it into like quality sections. You know, I try to make the most out of every bait that we have. I would say on average, most of our bait is like, you know, 3 inches, and you know, depending on the type of bait, I always want to, you know, put like the center section on, and make sure that I got a decent amount of, like, you know, all the good stuff, the guts, and then, you know, when we're using the head, I want to make sure I leave, you know, a portion of the like, you know, the liver or something hanging out the outside of the head.
And there's days where I clean out the bait cooler every day. Every time when we get home, I'm the guy that cleans out the bait cooler. And you know, there's times where we come home, like we come home from the Rising Sun tournament, and I open up the bait cooler, and there's 25 middle sections of skipjack in there, and I'm like, well, that don't tell you what we were catching them on. When we're catching them on heads, that's what I'm cutting them all heads. And that's if they're biting on the whole ones, that's what I'm putting out there. And it just depends. You got to really tune into that in the tournament, because sometimes certain sections will outfish the other section throughout the night by far.
Yeah, the adaptability in a tournament, I think, is a big thing, and it's something that you might say a lot starting out, but the actual practice of it and getting to where you start, you know, really thinking of doing things different than what you've done the whole beginning of it, and figuring out, you know, if it could be the depth of the water that you're fishing, the type, you know, the type of bait you're using, the cut of bait that you're using. There really is a lot of things that you have to be able to adapt to on the fly during a tournament. You guys agree with that, or?
Oh yeah, I mean it changes. It can change hourly, and if the weather changes a lot for us, we notice that when the weather patterns are changing, that's when the fish bite, and it's a matter of putting yourself in the right spot, because the fish don't bite the whole tournament. Sometimes they only bite for that last hour, or they only bite for the couple hours, and that's why you always want to put yourself in a good spot the whole time, because you never know when they're gonna bite.
I've definitely had tournaments where I thought that I was going to skunk, and in that last, you know, you're sitting there and you're eking out the last minutes of a tournament, and you can pull in 4 fish within 20 minutes. I mean, I've done it. You know, I mean, it's not ideal, but there's times where you'll take it.
Yeah, that happened to us last weekend at Rising Sun. It was a tough day. We only had 2 fish in the boat, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe for 15 pounds. And, you know, we had gone probably 5 hours without catching a fish, so it was a big lull. And then, you know, we just never gave up. We went back to where we knew that we had caught fish, and, you know, we knew what had worked, and we just put the baits back down there. And, you know, in the last 45 minutes or less, you know, we caught 3 quality fish.
Ron Streeter said to John, thanks for mentioning him. He says he taught you everything you know.
He makes the sinkers for us.
And we got another question from Jason Kindred. He asked, do you guys fish shallow or deep in the fall?
Deep. I love to fish deep. If I'm fishing in the river, I'm typically going to fish the main river channel. I'm going to fish deep
All year round.
all year round. I hardly ever target fish in shallow water. If in a reservoir, it's a total different story. We fish a lot of reservoir tournaments and things like that, and I love catching fish in shallow water. I wish somebody would teach me how to catch 50-pound blues in 5 foot of water. That would be a blast. But I just can't. I can't do that on the Ohio River, so I'm always fishing deep.
another question from the chat came in. It says, do you guys ever use bait that's out of the norm from what you can get on the body of water you're on? Um, we get a lot, like, I guess, for example, we use a lot of creek chubs on the Ohio River, which I guess you can't get very easily down there.
Yeah, really, we stick, with the main three, or
That's the hatch.
yeah, or sometimes, we'll throw a bluegill out there every once in a while, but we usually stick with the shad or the skipjack or the mooneye.
Just try and match the hatch. What I know is out there.
Yeah, I was hearing from a lot of people. I actually, and just so people know, the Rising Sun tournament here recently, Casey and John got second place in, I believe, last year. What place did you get? Like third or fourth or something?
Last year we finished in like 20th place.
Oh, did you?
We skunked on the second day for the most part.
Yeah, we were in
Okay.
fourth on the first leg of it.
Yeah, it was Monsters on the Ohio last year, second place. Rising Sun this year, they got second place. Um, Rising Sun's a 2-day tournament on the Ohio River up north in Rising Sun, Indiana. Um, I know that down there. I mean, I went down. Let's say I can't remember if it was a day or 2 days early, but I went down to catch bait myself, and I was skipjack fishing, and I was catching them little 4 to 6 inch skipjack, and a lot of the fish I think that I caught might have been on them skipjack, and I had no problem putting them in my cooler and using them. I definitely had the bigger frozen skipjack, but the fresh versus frozen thing is, I think it's a huge deal. I mean, I think it was last year or the year before last, I was using hardly anything but frozen bait, and my basic big note to improve upon my fishing for the next year was that I needed to start using fresh bait a lot more than what I did that year. And I definitely think that it has definitely improved the amount of fish and the type of fish that I'm catching. So um, it's definitely I think with what they're saying, they spend a lot of their time, bait fishing before any tournaments. They spend so much more time on bait fishing than they do pre-fishing or anything. So
That's the number one thing, man. Fresh bait. I can't preach it enough. I'd assume stay at home and sit on my couch and watch football than go to the fishing tournament or show up to Monsters without fresh bait or just any tournament in general. And to the guys, I know it's tough to go out and get fresh bait. You don't always have the time, but anybody can go out to your local little pond and catch yourself 10 or 15, 20 bluegill to take real quick. That doesn't take a professional to do that or anything. And I'd rather, if you can't go get it, that's what I would do, and that's going to improve your fishing so much more.
yep. Before we go on, I'm gonna go ahead and do the angler spotlights that I have. I got 5 more guys that I'm gonna say thanks for posting on Catfish Weekly's Facebook page. Jim Trout, Mark Jones, Chris White, Kelly Pinnell, and Justin Clark. Thank you to you guys for posting on there. Keep posting. We really appreciate you guys posting on there the fish that you're catching, the kids catching fish. It's great stuff. So keep posting on there, everybody. If you post on there, most likely get your name called out here on the show. We'll applause you for doing that for us and everybody else. There's a lot of people that like to look at those pictures. So keep it up, and thanks again to all of you guys. Now, back to the questions. Seth McAllister in chat asks, can you go into it a bit more on what differentiated you guys from some of the top teams at the Rising Sun tourney? It was a hard tournament, and he'd be curious to know some of the tips for the newcomers to the tourney scene.
All right, well, I don't know if there's really too much that made us set us apart differently than I know that we had the fresh bait for the tournament. We had fresh bait. I'm gonna preach that the whole time. And the first day we did good. We have a spot out there that we could seem to consistently catch 50, 60, 70 pounds of fish off of. It's a good spot. but we always go back the second day and can't catch anything. So this year we decided we were going to go the second day and go somewhere different, and we didn't catch anything all day. And we went back to that first spot where we normally catch them, and we did catch them. I know that on Friday night after the tournament, we didn't stick around at the weigh-in to see everybody's results and everything. We waited till the next. We didn't even know what place we were in until the next morning because we went back out on the river and stayed out and caught bait until like I don't know, probably 10 o'clock at night before we even got back off the river. So I don't. We had really fresh bait for the second day. I caught it in between the tournament, in between the 2 days. I know that there's a lot of guys that didn't do that. A lot of guys went back to their hotel and went to dinner and all those things, but I didn't. I ate a ham sandwich and I went fishing.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I I've definitely, I fish against you guys a lot in Indiana, and you're one of them teams where I'm always like, good, I just want to beat them. But I respect the crap out of you. I mean, you guys are such great fishermen that, like I've told you before, I can only hope to go out with you and learn from you over the years, and hopefully there'll be a time or two that I get to be sitting in front of you on the leaderboard on a tournament or something,
I'm
like,
sure.
go ahead.
I said I'm sure it'll happen, Fudd. I mean, you've beat us before. I know you have.
It might have happened, but I want to see it. I want to see it on a big tournament. I want to know the things that you guys are doing and that I'm doing. I'm working my way up. You guys have put the time in. I can't say that I've got that time in yet. I mean, I'm working to it, but that's all I can ask is, go out, put my time in, try to figure things out. You know, learning things like the way you guys learned as well. You said you went out to the river yourself and just sort of figured it out, and I've been putting a lot of time in on the Ohio River myself and trying to figure things out, and that's, there is no magic button to go out there and just be able to catch fish. You really gotta have the knowledge. You gotta have a little bit of that luck. There's a lot of things that come into it, but like I said, I respect you guys. You guys are great fishermen. So, let's see, what else do we got for you? Anybody else want to chime in on anything? You guys thought of anything else to talk about? Chuck,
Uh,
Lyle?
I'm reading questions from other guys on Facebook. Hang on.
Okay. What's your I know on that 1198, I actually sold you the 1198. Have you used um the side imaging? I can't remember what you had before that. Or is that the first side imaging unit you've had?
The first one I had, that's the first side imaging I had. I had the 597 before the down imaging, but yeah, I use the side imaging a lot just to check structure and to look at it, and not so much to find fish. I'm not on my graph to find fish. I'm using it for structure. And when we're drifting, I can see my baits. I see the fish. I know if there's fish there, and them fish come up and nose up and go back down. We'll keep going through there until they're gonna bite. Because like I said, they don't always bite. They only bite for a couple hours. But when they do, if you're there, you'll catch them.
Now, if you like drift over a spot where you mark a couple good fish and you don't get a bite, but you may see that fish come up and check it out, will you turn it around, come back up over it, switch baits out, or change depth, or do anything to get that fish, or are you just going to keep on trucking down the river?
I'm just gonna keep trucking, but it's in a controlled drift, so I'm only going so far. If I got it mapped out how far I want to go through there. If I marked several fish all the way through there, I might go through there again. But if not, I might go on to the next one. It just depends.
We also got the question on that Rising Sun tournament. What was you catching your fish on? Was it on moon eye or skipjack or shad?
It was on Moon Eye.
All on moon eye. Now, there's a lot of people that might not know what a moon eye is. A moon eye is a lot like a shad. Um, it can be a tough fish to catch down on the river. I mean, there can be signs of them and there can not be signs of them, and you can just basically take a bobber, a small ultralight pole with a cricket on it about 2 foot under a bobber, and go out there and just throw it around current seams and I don't know if Johnny and Casey got some more information on catching moon eye, if they want to share it or not. But you guys got anything?
It, hit or miss thing. It took us 2 or 3 years to learn how to catch them, and it's still hard for us sometimes. They're they're rarely in the same place twice. We've noticed from day to day. Like if you catch them here one day, you're probably not going to go back there the next day and catch them. Uh, so it's just being able to go out and try hit several spots for them. That's the number one thing I could say about the moon eye. Um, it's all about the time of day you're doing it too. Everybody says fish for them at nighttime. We can't hardly catch them at nighttime. We catch them in the morning time, and when the sun's going down, we can't catch them during the middle of the day. And if you're not in the right spot at the peak of the bite, you're not getting them. It's just like skipjacks. Sometimes them skipjack, they only bite when the sun's going down and when it's coming up. The moon eyes seem to be the same way.
Yeah, I've got into them like that, and my experience has been about the same. That early morning, that dusk and dawn bite.
And
Um,
different places, like some stretches of the river seem to be better for them than others. We've definitely gone to places and not caught any, and then go a couple pools up the river the next day and caught 20 or 30 of them in a day.
now what? I'm pretty sure I know your answer, but what have you heard anything about using moon eye frozen? Because I've heard that they're just as good frozen as they are fresh, but it's kind of hard for me to buy that.
Uh, it, yeah.
They unthaw pretty well, and I can't say that they work better frozen or fresh.
If I had to choose some
But
fresh.
yeah, obviously, we would want them fresh, but they do unthaw pretty well.
Have you guys went out and caught a bunch and froze any of them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was gonna unfreeze something, that's what I want to unfreeze. I think it stays better than the skipjack or the shad by far. I mean, like I said, that bait that I bring home and freeze. That's the stuff that we use when we're out there pre-fishing, just messing around and going down there for fun. We're catching fresh bait for the tournament.
Now you mentioned, just to help everybody out, you mentioned not letting your bait get wet in your cooler. How exactly do you go about keeping your bait not getting wet, but yet still on ice?
Well,
We typically put a layer of ice down at the bottom of the cooler, and we put the cooler on a tilt so that the water is constantly draining out. Or if we see that, if we put the drain plug back in it, we will, every hour or so drain that water out and, kind of move the fish around in the ice so that they're not on the bottom sitting in the water.
Okay, because I've heard like some people say they'll take a towel, put a towel on top of the ice, and the towel will get wet as it melts, and yet it won't hold as much moisture in it too. So I didn't know if you guys did anything like that or.
Hey Casey, when y'all come down here on your winter trips to Wheeler, do you ever bring Moon Eye with you down here, or y'all just use skipjack when y'all come down?
just the skipjack down there.
You
That's a.
never tried Moon Eye on the Tennessee River down here?
I tried it one time and I didn't catch anything on it, man. I fished all day with I had a couple I brought with me and I didn't catch anything. But the skipjack seems to take the helm down there.
Oh yeah. On some strategies for your tournaments, if you go to a body of water that you've never been to before, and y'all don't have very much time to fish, and you show up on a Friday night, you got time to get bait. But what's usually y'all's strategy when y'all are leaving the ramp the next morning? Do y'all already have stuff planned out on Google Earth and look at the navionics if it's mapped out and stuff like that, or y'all just hit the river and just get that gut feeling on where to go?
If we've never been somewhere, I'm definitely gonna look at Google Earth. I'm gonna get a map of it and I'm gonna check out the map. And normally we'll look at the map together and pick out a spot. That'll be our choice where we're gonna start. We also try to think about the time of the year where the fish are gonna be, so that'll help us with the spot. The fish constantly are changing where they're gonna be, so that with the navionics, and then the 1198 has all the contours on it. That helps a lot, having the contours, and just just having a knowledge of what the fish are doing really helps to pick a spot too. they're constantly changing what they're doing.
Do you take cold fronts in consideration, and not just the time of year? If a cold front's coming through, um, and y'all had one plan, do y'all totally redo your strategy because of the weather conditions, because of what you've seen fish pattern like in the past?
Mm. Not really. I'm gonna say I'm gonna fish the same place. I think the cold front just makes them not bite. I don't necessarily think it moves the fish. I think it kind of makes them not bite. Now, if the river comes up 10 or 15 feet or something in a couple days, or the current changes dramatic, I'm moving spots. I'm gonna go somewhere else.
That's good
Uh,
info.
we have another question. Is there any chance of you guys traveling west to fish the Missouri River or some states like Nebraska or Kansas or anything like that in the near future?
I mean, I would love to go up to Nebraska and fish. What is that reservoir called?
The Calamouche Reservoir. We want to go fish for the channels. The I know that Cabela's has that tournament up there in Nebraska every year where they fish for them channel cats, them 20-pound channel cats. I think that'd be a blast.
Yeah.
But other than that, man, it's kind of hard for us to commit to traveling to those big waters with my boat. I only have a 17-footer. I'd like to get in a bigger boat. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I need. I need to get in a bigger boat. I'm gonna try and get that taken care of here. But we just can't commit to travel somewhere where we know the water's going to be bad. We might not be able to fish. That's just not financially smart to do that.
Yeah. And from what it sounds like is fishing like the Missouri or Mississippi or whatever it is over there pushing 9 mile an hour, that can be scary in a little John style boat like yours.
Yeah, I don't. Would you want to go out with me in 9 mile an hour current fun?
No. Well, I probably would. You know how crazy I am. I probably would. You've seen me pile through some stump fields in my boat like 5 mile an hour. Just do do do.
Yeah,
Or
that
watch
was.
out, I'm coming.
Yeah, the hard part's when you get hung up. It's
Yeah.
Oh man.
drag peeling right there.
Yeah, the we're talking about like the Monsters on the Ohio coming up. Now your plans to go down there and pre-fish? Are you going to be there a few days early, or are you going to show up
Well,
a day early, or?
uh, that all just kind of depends with work. I'm gonna definitely go down a couple days early. I'll be down there probably on a Wednesday. Pre-fishing and bait fishing. I'm gonna definitely do some pre-fishing. There's several areas of the river I want to check out. I I know the stretches through there. I know where I like to fish, but it's just where they're at certain times of the year. And then I'm gonna try and make Johnny take off of work, but he's not too keen on it. He just can't take off of work as much as me. So
Yeah.
we're gonna try and get him down there on Wednesday because I need him back there to help me find the fish.
Now, do you guys already have a game plan put together, or are you gonna just, make that decision once you've been out and sort of looked at the water a little bit, or?
I'm gonna probably just try and probably do the same thing we did last year, same time of year. Hopefully the weather's starting to turn for the cooler now. Hopefully the fish will be where they were last time. I mean that's where I'm gonna start. That's where my week will start at is checking that place out.
Okay. Let's see. We got more questions online or on the chat here. Um, what's your favorite hooks? What type of line do you use? What type of leader line do you use?
We almost always just run with the 8-aught Gamakatsus. We've tried a couple other hooks, and it just doesn't feel right almost, and we've missed a couple fish on some other hooks, and we typically stick with the Gamakatsus, and we usually run 80-pound braid, Berkeley big game braid, and a 60-pound leader.
So you use a nice thick mono leader, or is it a braid leader as well?
Yeah, we use the a Berkeley big game mono leader.
And then what kind of braid is it that you use?
I do believe it's the same, isn't it?
It's an 80-pound
Berkeley
Power Pro,
Power Pro.
Berkeley, big Power Pro. I mean, I've used a couple different kinds. I've used some offshore braid too before, some saltwater braid, some 80-pound saltwater braid. I really like that too. But Power Pro most of the time.
Well, I hope you guys don't have any of the problems I've had with some of them Gamakatsus lately.
Man.
I've had a few problems with them. I've had the tip. I mean, I've got one sitting right here on my desk somewhere. The tips completely broke off on it, and that was on a fish during a tournament, and it would have been I had him up on the back of the boat, and it was a decent fish because it was in that same pool that was Rising Sun. It was in that Markland. It's the Markland pool, right? Above Markland would be that pool, right? Yeah. That Markland pool, I mean, it was a decent fish I had on there. It broke off, and I just started missing a lot of fish on them, and, I loved them too. I really did. I loved the Gamakatsu. I liked the diameter of them. It felt like it was a good diameter. It was easy to penetrate a lip and, sturdy enough to hold the fish. But once I started missing fish on them, man, it just seemed like it just kept happening, and I switched over, and I've been using some Charlie Browns and then the Team Catfish double actions, and so far so good.
I've seen where a lot of guys are having problems with the Gamakatsus, but
Yeah.
we haven't had any problems with them yet. We've
Until
I've
you
caught
do.
over 50 pounds on them. I've caught 70 and 80-pound fish on them, and I mean, the tip's been every now and again if you get it snagged in a rock or something, but I've never had a problem with them on a fish breaking. And I've had some fish fight like crazy, and I don't know. I see guys show tips of them broken all the time, and
It's probably just bad batches. I mean, from what I hear, they just have bad batches on them and stuff, but
it worries me. I worry about it because I see all these things about it, and I've been on Johnny this year saying, "Hey man, we need to try some new hooks. We need to try some new hooks," but they haven't let us down, so it's hard for us to change, and we haven't really found a hook that we like as well.
Yeah. I honestly I would have never changed until they started really. I felt like I just even after I've had the tip break on me and a couple other where I had the fish on and they just come off and things that just they weren't normal, they weren't typical for what I've seen from using them for the past 3 or 4 years, and it was even after that stuff had happened, it was still hard for me to say, all right, I'm done. I just can't keep dealing with it, and so
I hope it doesn't happen to us in the tournament where it lets us down, because man, I've stuck behind them because I've used them for so long. I've stuck behind them for years, but that hasn't let us down, and I hope if it does let us down, it doesn't happen in the tournament. We'll see.
Hey, Alan told me, he said my fishy song might be scaring away the fish, because there's a few guys that know it, like Scott. You've probably heard. It's not a song; it's more of a fish call, but And if you're on a lake with me in the middle of the night, if you're anywhere on the lake, I don't care how big the lake is, you'll probably hear it too. But anyway, so what do we got? Got any more questions on Facebook there, Lyle? Or?
No, that other one was a statement. It wasn't a question. You guys, Johnny's not going to be able to go down a little early as you are, Casey. Is that my understanding for the Monsters?
Yeah, it looks like I'm probably not going to be able to get off until Thursday night or Friday. I'll definitely be able to get Friday off, but
then
maybe I can get down there.
Maybe Casey can jump in the boat with Cindy and I, and we'll go out and mark some of the fish that you guys are going to fish, and then I'll have them on our depth finder, and maybe I can see you guys when you're fishing, and I'll have to be looking around to see where you're at.
If I do that, you're going to beat me to the spot, because I probably have the slowest boat in the tournament, honestly.
No, I doubt that. We used to have a really, really fast boat, and it wasn't comfortable us to fish out of it. We bought another one, and I would bet that you probably could outrun our boat. It doesn't go very fast. it's pretty
I know.
safe and comfortable to fish out of.
Uh, Last year at Monsters, I know that we ran for almost 2 hours before we started fishing.
Oh man,
It's a long ways.
yeah, yeah. You think that the big structure spots will be the key down there this year?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's 5 or 6 key areas that'll be where the bigger fish are going to come from. But then again, some of these guys they're showing up with these boats with the 300s on them and the Lunds, and they're running,
100 miles a day.
80, 90 miles downriver and stuff. So there's endless opportunity if you want to go that far.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you, this year, we talked about this before, and I don't know how if you guys followed the show at all, but there's been a lot more quality fish caught in the Owensboro area this year than I've ever seen before. Pictures of them and videos and different things.
Yeah. I,
So
I,
that's a good thing.
I know it's good fishing down there through Owensboro, but I hardly ever fish down through there. I'm always either up near the Candleton Dam or down near the the Newburgh Dam, Evansville. That's all real good through there.
So do you like dam fishing?
I do, but I like the drift fishing too. So
Yeah. We do a lot of drift fishing, but I really, personally, I like fishing around the dams. I like it a lot. There's so many dams on the Mississippi to choose from, and I guess the Ohio is the same way. But the success that you get from drifting, just in the summertime, especially, far outweighs it.
Oh yeah. There's nothing better than look back in the back of the boat and I got to tell Johnny that his rod's touching the water.
You don't got to nudge him and be like, wake up or anything, do you?
Not wake
Never.
up, but I got to tell him sometimes, man. There's been several times where he.
So are you guys drifting with your rods on a holder, or are you back bouncing, or?
It kind of varies. A lot of times we are in a holder though.
Very, very little bumping, man. Just the current isn't strong enough for us to do a lot of bumping.
Right. A lot of the time, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but to me, fishing the Ohio River is a lot like lake fishing, and for the most part, you're dragging baits instead of back bouncing. Or that's what I've noticed. The current is so slight down there. Nearly every time I've never been down there with any amount of current. But when we're setting up here on one of my rivers, you're heading the trolling motor upriver, and you're just trying to slow the current speed, the drift down. We're down there. Sometimes there's not enough current. You're actually pulling the baits down the river just to get them to move enough. So I didn't know if you all bounced or used hand rods, or you just basically left them in rod holders and went that way.
Up at the dam, we'll use a lot of hand rods at the dam. When you can get it up there in that hydro unit and stuff like that, there's a lot of current pumping out of those dams still. We'll get up there and bounce around with some hand rods, and we've caught a lot of fish doing that, but that's just so hard to do in the tournament because there's normally 10 or 15 boats up there with you.
Right. And it'll be that way this time if there's any fish up there. Of course, pardon me, if there's not any fish, then it won't be that way. If the fish are not underneath them dams, them guys won't hang around long.
No, not at all.
We have a couple more questions in the chat. One of them was, how did you guys get started out as partners?
I can't tell you. I think Casey's old partner couldn't make it to a tournament, and I filled in for him, and then we fished. We started 3 people on a boat, and then the other person, got a job to where he couldn't fish, and we kind of just linked up, and we were doing really well together. And
we always fished against each other. He fished with his dad, and I fished with my dad. So that's probably how we got into it the most. We decided that we were going to take on our dads, and then we started beating our dads all the time, and they got upset.
Do Another question we got from Scott was that do either of you ever hope to make a career out of catfishing?
I think both those would be
Wait.
in heaven to fish. To be a professional fisherman and get paid to do this. That's like a lifelong goal for me almost.
I'm gonna always catfish. So if the sport ever got to that level, yeah, I mean I'd be right there with it. Hopefully,
Do you
so
think you'll ever get there?
if the sport gets there, it's all about
The concept.
if we can get the sport to get to where something like bass fishing is, then
That,
yeah,
that's what I mean. Do you think the sport will ever grow that much?
I think it will if we can get the conservation right, because the way that people react to, when we pull those big fish out of the live wells, if we can get the conservation right and we can get more and more people seeing like, wow, these fish are huge, I think that the draw to the sport will just continually grow, but I think it all is going to be dependent on the conservation of the sport for the fish.
Yep, conservation, the image. If you guys haven't watched a lot of the episodes of Catfish Weekly, we've talked about image, conservation. We talk about both of those things quite a bit, and that's because we want to see the sport grow, and image is a big thing. I mean, we've talked about it a few times already. Guys going out there, especially big tournaments, and you know, getting pictures taken and weigh-ins and stuff with no shirt on, and the hillbilly image has to be overcome. I mean, in order for us to grow this sport, we can't have a stereotype of a bunch of redneck hillbillies, out, and that's the only people that are fishing for catfish. So the image, dressing in the jerseys, looking presentable, acting presentable while at tournaments. That's all a big thing that has to be worked on by everybody in order to push this sport to that direction. Awkward silence. Insert here.
Well, I'm still. I agree with everything that we've all been talking about on that situation, but I just don't see the big name sponsors coming up with the new stuff for catfishing to shell out the dough it takes to be able to make a living catfishing, other than guiding. I just the tournaments. You can't have a $10,000 tournament and expect to win one of those a year and expect to live on that. It takes a lot more tournaments and a lot bigger, and I just don't see the sponsorship money there at this time to do it. It's going to take, instead of these companies giving away a boat, they're going to have to give away that much cash, and I don't see them doing that right now.
Well, in an equivalent size, say for example, the Rising Sun tournament that had 146 catfishing boats, had that been a bass tournament, what kind of money do you think you'd be talking with 146 boats and the sponsorships and things of a big tournament?
I'd be guessing 300,000-400,000 minimum.
Yeah, I mean,
and unless it was like an FLW event or a Bass Pro event or something like that, but I don't know. I also remember catfishing tournaments 10 years ago when $500 was the biggest payout you ever heard of, and now
That's right.
and now we're fishing 10 years later, and they just paid out $37,000 at Rising Sun throughout the field. So, and now you got monsters coming up and all these other tournaments. So
it's definitely growing.
You never know.
Yeah, it's 10 years from now, it could be, definitely evolved beyond where it's at now. And
like I say, I just don't see any companies that'll the local companies where these tournaments are put on is where the money's coming from now. But for it to get big, you got to get the boat companies or the rod and reel companies or somebody has got to be consistently throwing big money in there, and I just don't see any of them guys doing it. Like Sea Arc, if they're going to give a boat away, that's great, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. I'm all for it. I'd love to win one, but I'm just saying you got to have that kind of equivalency in cash, because You know, a lot of times, you know, well, there's Cabela's a few years ago, you know, instead of handing out the cash, they was giving out gift certificates and certificates for trolling motor stuff. Well, you can't cash that in after you spend your money on gas and fuel and motel rooms and stuff. And if you sell it, you can't get out of it what the value of it is. So until somebody steps up and throws the actual money out there, I don't see it getting, you know, growing in rapid rates myself.
One of the things that needs to be done is there needs to be a lot more products aimed at catfishing. I think that's part of the problem is that there's not enough money in products for the stores to be able to sell. I mean, even though what there is, they sell a lot of. I mean, I believe I've talked to a few people that have talked to higher ups in Bass Pro Shops and things like that, and some of their top sales are in catfishing equipment and gear and stuff, but there really isn't a lot of a variety. I mean, you go into any section of a store and look at bass stuff, you're going to see 400 different types of lures, whereas what is there for catfishing? I mean, you got this Charlie's dip bait, you got a treble hook and a few hooks here, and if there's a lot of products, in order for them to be able to make money from, that's where you're going to start seeing this the bigger prize money come from, because there's more money for.
I agree.
So
It's
start thinking up catfishing product ideas and start pitching them to companies, and there you go.
it's just about the bragging rights, guys. Right now, it's not about the money.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. If you're going into tournament catfishing and you think you're gonna make a living out of it right now, you're just fooling yourself. You got to be able to accept the fact that if you break even, you've done really good, and if you made money, you've done exceptionally well. And the best part about it is you get to get online or go to the next tournament and walk up to Casey and John and say, hey, I kicked your ass. You know, and that's where the fun of it is, and that's what we all do. Instead, me and Chris and Chuck, we're sitting back there saying, God, these guys are kicking our butt every time we go. What we gonna do to beat them? You know, but that's the way it is, and you get you guys, and you've been very successful, and that's awesome for you. But I got to give a shout out to Jeff Dodd and John Warden and Randy Dodd. They had a heck of a day last weekend. In case nobody's seen that, and like right at 200 pounds on 5 fish down there. I believe they fished Wheeler, and Russ DeVore's 180 or 90 pounds on 5. You know, that's outstanding days they guys had too.
Oh, good job, guys.
It's
Definitely.
different fishery down there. That's awesome down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a great place to fish. I'm sure it is. I'm not sure I'd trade Mississippi River for it, but I have to go down there to be able to determine that for sure.
Yeah,
We're
the
running right
way
Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead.
the direction that a lot of the bass money is coming in now, you'll see Toyota trucks, you'll see these large insurance companies, a lot of the stuff is totally out of the really the bass type equipment. You'll actually see the different guys, pro staff of different bass boat companies. You'll see the Ranger pro staff guys, the Bass Cat guys, the Skeeter guys. But when you see these tournaments put together, they're actually sponsored by Geico. They're sponsored by Toyota trucks. So a lot of people you talk to, we'll be at a service station going to a tournament, and people will come up to us and go, man, they have catfish tournaments? We've never heard of that. I mean, people don't even know that there's catfish tournaments out there. If it got on TV a little bit more, and actually these larger sponsors seen that there was a market where they could actually market their services or their merchandise through these guys and have spectators show up, I think there would be a lot more people that would be interested in pouring money into the sport. But until we can start getting recognized, getting more TV, know that there is actually cameras and people like stands, there's not too much we can do until then.
Yeah, I've on many occasions, I might go to a tournament with my wife or something. But when I sit and I look at it, and I have 3 hour drive or 4 hour drive, pulling a boat. I got boat, gas money for the boat, tournament entry fees. Um, I look at it and I'm like, if I got first place, I'm gonna break even. I mean, that's just how much you got into it. So, the likelihood of that isn't super great. So, it's definitely not about the money. It's definitely just about the catfishing and enjoying it. And there's a lot of things that go on. And I tell a lot of people this too, that the guys that get into tournament fishing, they really, if they let a lot of stuff get to them, you're really gonna not enjoy what you're doing out there. And then as soon as you start doing that, you really just kind of shot yourself in the foot. I mean, if you're not enjoying it while you're out there tournament fishing, I just enjoy the competition. It's not about the money at all. Of course, it's the bragging rights, and just the fact that you yourself are getting better at the sport, the challenge of it all. That's what it's about for me. I absolutely, I think I dream about catfishing. I mean, I love being on the water. I love having a rod and rod holder.
Chris, you're not the only one that dreams about it, man. I usually have a couple weekly dreams about going out and catching a big one.
Definitely, it's something I've done for a long time. My dad took me catfishing when I was young. We sit out on the Mississinawa riverbank, and it didn't matter. He always would catch. I'd have a nice fish on, but before the end of the night, by the time we'd leave, he'd catch one just a little bit bigger than mine. You know.
Yeah, me and my dad always have that competition when we go down to Wheeler. It's I caught the bigger one or he caught the bigger one, and then
All right. Well, I think we're running a little over an hour now. We'll go ahead and get the closing statement started. Um, Casey and John, if you guys want to thank your sponsors and have anything else you want to talk about, close us out, and I'll let everybody else do theirs, but you guys can start us off.
uh, I just I want to thank Steve Douglas and Monster Rod Holders and stuff. He's put a lot of faith in us and supported us the whole way through. There's a lot of FaceTime out there, and that helped us a lot. And I just want to thank all the support I get from my family and from just the fellow fishermen that come up and just the kind words sometimes. That's always nice to hear that. And I guess thanks for having us on the show tonight. If you guys see us at the tournament, don't be afraid to come up and talk to me. I'm not afraid to tell you what we're gonna do or how we caught them or something like that. I'm kind of shy sometimes. It's hard for me to strike up a conversation with somebody new. So we're just friendly, man. We're just good old boys that like to go fishing.
Yep. We appreciate you guys coming on. We'll definitely have to get you on again. Like I said, you guys are always, doing well in these big tournaments and stuff, and there's probably lots of things that you could chime in on and have good information, and I think we really enjoyed having you on the show. So again, thanks.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yep.
No problem. Chuck, do you want to do your closing statement?
Oh yeah, I want to say thanks for Casey and John coming on tonight. I thought it was a great show, and this is going to be on video archives. No telling how many hits we're going to get on this over the years. There's going to be plenty of young and upcoming guys who's going to be able to watch this stuff and get pointers from y'all. It was great for y'all. Letting people know how y'all get into it, what y'all do. It makes people want to go out and give it a shot. So I really appreciate y'all being on.
Oh,
Thanks.
thanks, man.
Got anything else there, Chuck?
No, we're gonna have our last Alabama Catfish Trail tournament on Neely Henry, but we just found out that they're gonna be dropping the water 4 feet uh, around that time. So we're gonna have to find another ramp because the ramp that we put in for it's not going to be launchable during that time. Uh, the city of Gaston's working on some bringing in some gravel and having a couple of ramps ready for some fishing tournaments and stuff. So I think we know what ramp we're going out of, and we have already made reservations to have the tournament out of there. But I'm not going to release anything until probably again next week to make sure everything's carved in stone really good.
All right, Lyle.
I would want to thank you guys for coming on the show tonight. Hopefully we can catch up with you and get you on down there when we're in Owensboro and sit down and maybe you can tell me where the fish are at in case I'm struggling. In case you don't know, Janet Fox and I have a deal going on about the Cardinals and the Reds cap for the team that finishes ahead of each other. So it might be worth your while to put me on some fish just so we can beat Janet and Bink. But thanks a lot for being on the show, and I just want to remind everybody that this weekend in Quincy, Illinois, will be our last regular season tournament for Twisted Cat Outdoors. Be the last chance you get to qualify for the Twisted Cat Outdoor year-end tournament in Keokuk, Iowa. So try to get up there and go. I know there's some other tournaments in the area, but this is always a great place to have a tournament. A lot of good fishing up there and some great folks. So come out and see us at Quincy. Launches at 7, weigh-ins at 3. Be at the Southside Boat Club. That's all I got.
All right. Well, we have a few spots left for advertising on the catfishweekly.com page. Indiana Hunter just resubscribed for another 3 months with us, so we appreciate that. Make sure you check that out. That link has changed recently, so now when you click on it, it'll take you directly to their YouTube channel. They have a lot of videos, catfishing, bird hunting, going to be some deer hunting. Really cool guys, really good little shows that they put on, so check it out. Also, the Catfish magazine, that's our top right advertisement. Click on that. It's a free subscription to Catfish magazine. It's a bi-monthly digital magazine, so it'll send it right to your email. And Catfish Weekly has a nice little article in this month's with all of us and about the show and everything. And then from the following months, we'll always have an ad in that. Definitely support them. A lot of good information in there. We also have the super fan package still. Like I said, we didn't have a giveaway this month, but I believe we're going to have something good coming up next month. The super fan package, $10. You'll get an extra entry into any contest that we have. You'll get, I think it's 15% off, or there's some sort of deal going on for whiskerware apparel. You'll get off of that. You'll get $20 off. I think it's $20 off for a Black Horse custom rod. That's what Lyle and Johnny need to do, is take some of them winnings and buy them a Black Horse custom rod or two. Get one of them in their hands. But definitely check it out. Go to the forums. We have a forum on there. There's been some forums that have been closing down here lately. We'd love for people to come and make our forum a more actively used forum. Post in there tournaments, and I'll probably add maybe a buy and sell little forum there. If there's a forum that's not in there that you'd like to see in there, just give me a message and I'll see if I can't get it on there. But yeah, like I said, we'd like to get a lot of use in that forum, people using it and taking advantage of it. So also for a tournament series, my good friend Scott Wiseman is starting a new series next year. I believe he's calling it Hoosier Whiskers, and that's going to be HoosierWhiskers.com. I believe he's going to be advertising with us. So take a look at his website. You know, if you're in Indiana and you want to fish a tournament or two, there are no membership fees. It should be a decent little tournament to fish. So in the ICA, there's Brookville coming up this Saturday. It's a day tournament. It is a points tournament. It does require a membership fee of $25, $60 entry fee. I believe it's a 7:30 to 5 or 7:30 to 4:30, something like that. You can look up more information on that at indianacatfish.com. I believe that's all we have. So again, I'll thank Casey and John for coming on the show. Hopefully we'll get them on again, and we'll maybe get them on for Monsters on the Ohio as well. Until next time, everybody, stay out of my spot.